So, World War I is over, and people in America are ready for things to return to normal, and the time after World War I is going to be a time of lots of change and excitement. So in the 1920s, American people were tired of all the tension in the war. Being in the war for this long had caused everybody to be exhausted, and they were ready for an easy and peaceful time. So average people wanted the country to return to normal, and they wanted the country to be less involved in world affairs and more focused on what's going on at home. So they wanted us to stay out of the world's business and focus on our business. So a guy named Warren G. Harding was elected president in 1920, and he promised everybody a return to normalcy. He says he's going to bring the country back to how it started, or how it was recently, back to normal so people can relax again. So they elected him in a landslide, which means he won by a huge percentage. He received more than 60% of the vote. This was the biggest percentage vote that anybody had won the presidency by in a long, long time. So Warren G. Harding was a senator from Ohio, and his vice president, Calvin Coolidge, was the governor of Massachusetts. After the election, Warren Harding announced he was not interested in heroics. So he wasn't trying to do anything heroic and save people. He wanted to heal the country and get us back to normal. He was looking for quick solutions. So he knows some people are struggling after the war, and he wants to fix things as quickly as possible. During the presidency of Warren G. Harding, the Emergency Quota Act was passed. And the Emergency Quota Act limited how many immigrants could come to the United States. So basically, they set a limit, and once that many immigrants came, no more were allowed. In 1920, Congress created the Veterans Bureau. And the Veterans Bureau was set up to help soldiers and their families once they return from war and once they're done serving their time. He also created the Bureau of Budget to organize the government's finances. And finances is talking about money. Generally, Warren G. Harding, even though he was popular, was not a super effective president. He was a poor judge of character. And similar to Ulysses Grant, he picked people who were in it for the wrong reasons, just trying to get rich quick and trying to make a bunch of money. If you remember from the previous lessons, that's called corruption. So one of the biggest scandals began in 1921. Two businessmen gave the Secretary of Interior, Albert Fall, $400,000 so they could have access to some government property. So basically, they paid this government guy a bribe so he would let them have the government property so they could use it to drill for oil. This is called the Teapot Dome scandal. This guy, Albert Fall, who the president picked to be in charge of our nation's resources, gets arrested and goes to jail for being involved in this scandal. So Warren G. Harding didn't know that this scandal was going on, but he still picked this guy, so he catches some of the blame for it. Warren Harding would not have allowed these things to happen had he known they were going on, but they still happened under his watch by people he chose. So President Harding dies suddenly on August 2nd of 1923. And even though he wasn't the most successful president, he was popular and liked by the people. And lots of people were really sad when he died. So what happens when the president dies? The vice president steps up and takes over. So that means now Calvin Coolidge moves up from vice president to president. Calvin Coolidge had a reputation for being a very calm and quiet guy and not showing emotion. It was almost impossible to get him upset. So he shows very little emotion and is very calm. Calvin Coolidge believed that the chief business of America is business. And what that means is he thinks America should be focused on businesses making money. He thought the government regulations to control big business were harmful to the economy. So basically what he's saying is instead of the government watching over all the businesses, trying to make sure they're doing the right thing, the government should stay out of their way so they can be as successful as possible. During the election year of 1924, Calvin Coolidge was confident and calm. And that's what people wanted. After having a president die in office, they want a calm, confident guy to maintain control. The economy was strong, and people's lives were generally improving. Most Americans liked him, and they voted to keep it cool with Coolidge. So they basically said, you're doing a good job, we're going to keep you. During the 1920s, the United States becomes a major world power. After World War I is over, a lot of these countries in Europe are still they're still struggling. They're still facing the aftermath and the damage of the war, and we basically showed how powerful the United States was. Harding and Coolidge both promoted economic development, and economics is talking about money. And they focused on peace at home and abroad. Both of them wanted the government to stay out of people's businesses. They wanted to reduce government spending and reduce taxes that business would pay. So they wanted the government to waste less money, and they also wanted businesses to spend less money on taxes, because the thought is, if a company is paying less taxes, then they'll have more money to reinvest in the company and grow. So during this time, countries were encouraged to destroy their weapons. So after World War I, this enormous war like no one has ever seen before, a lot of countries never want to go back to that. And they are trying to get everyone to agree to get rid of their tanks, get rid of their planes, well, not tanks yet, but get rid of their planes, get rid of their weapons, so people are not so eager to fight the next time. In 1928, Calvin Coolidge's last year as president, 14 other countries, along with the United States, signed something called the Kellogg-Briand Pact. And the Kellogg-Briand Pact was a treaty that made war illegal. Now, if you think about that, it's a nice idea, trying to make war illegal, but there's really no way to enforce that. If a country wants to go to war with another country, the fact that war is illegal is not going to stop them. Okay, guys. So, what I need you guys to do now, I'm going to open up Google Classroom. This was a shorter lesson. We are going to do Chapter 24, Lesson 1.